not allergic to counterfeit.
What is up? Welcome to my car. Welcome to the Wilbur and Gold Show, episode 37 of the Wilbur and Gold Show. Well, we don't give a fuck if we're driving up the highway. We could be in studio. We could be on the toilet, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't do that. But the point is, anytime, anywhere, we got the Wilbur and Gold Show going. We don't give a shit where we're at. We're coming to you. We are live. I'm riled up. It's Monday. It's good to be here. It's the first Monday after Christmas, 2 days ago. Got a little music in there early, which was fun. And I'll say this to start it off. You guys know how I kind of am I'm very improv, and I'll start off on one street and I'll get off on a side street, and those that know me know this. I'll get off on a side street and I'll go around to a back road, and then I'll eventually come back to what was the main fucking road we were on originally. No pun intended, since we are going up behind. Maybe Paul N will drop by again. If you shout out to Paul N on the last episode a couple weeks ago. I believe that was our first ever viewer live, since we started doing the live format. For whatever the reason, the shows don't get as many viewers when you do them live. I've tended to back when I don't know, the first 20, maybe first 20 episodes of the show, they were all pre-recorded, and those tended to do better as far as views were concerned. But me personally, I like the live format for this type of show better. There are other content things that I would do, obviously pre-recorded and edited and all that flashy shit, because I'm into that too. But as far as like my main, show, like I wanted to have a very live podcast, radio show type feel to it, where we're live and you guys can pop in here live on air, and we'll interact live on air. And we got to do that for the first time on the last episode 36. Paul N dropped by, and it was fun. I mean, and if you didn't catch that, go check it out. And that's what I want this to be. Only loads of people in here, just one after another, live talking on air. Maybe we'll even grow it to a point way down the line, or at least when we have enough audience to do it, where we can literally do like split screen and talk to each other, almost like a FaceTime, and get into whatever. So yeah, we are rolling up the highway. I'm heading down to Raleigh, North Carolina. As you know, I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, but some of the work that I do for a radio station down in Raleigh, where I do some sports casting down there, that is where I am currently heading. I'm right in, I don't know, if you live in North Carolina, you know these places. Obviously, Raleigh's the capital, so I would hope you would be familiar with that. I'm a little bit past Burlington, North Carolina right now, if you know where that is. So I'm maybe a little more than halfway to Raleigh. So I just thought I'd come on here and do an episode, damn it. I mean, it's Monday. It's the first Monday after Christmas, start of the new week, and I wanted to come on here and see how you guys were doing, see how your Christmas was, talk rant about the Panthers a little bit, talk about the upcoming Boba Fett Wednesday. Not sure what time that drops, at maybe 9. I'm not sure what time that'll drop on Wednesday. But what I may do potentially, I'm thinking about it, is doing like I don't know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you got to know who Star Wars Theory is. He's pretty much the top content creator around all things Star Wars, outside of the Star Wars accounts themselves, and one would argue he's actually better at it than they are, because he actually understands the story inside and out, like real diehard fans do. Or unless your name's Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, then, because I'm pretty sure George Lucas had his brain cloned and put inside of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, from a Star Wars perspective. But yeah, so wanted to talk about the Spider-Man movie that has just absolutely just exploded. I mean, it just, I mean, they're talking like it's the best movie in 2021, potentially the best Marvel superhero movie of all time. It's definitely up there. I mean, obviously, I'm loyal to the first generation of Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. I don't know, and let me just start here since we're on it. I don't know what a lot of people feel, maybe not the same, but a lot of people feel the same about Spider-Man 3 that they do about the Star Wars sequel movies 7, 8, 9. Maybe not as passionately, but a lot of people really just do not like Spider-Man 3. Now, obviously, Spider-Man 2 was the GOAT. The GOAT. I actually like Spider-Man 3 to the point where I'm not sure whether 2 or 3 was my favorite. I loved both. I mean, nothing against the original. But I don't know. 2 and 3 were probably my favorites, and 3 could be my favorite. I don't know. I really liked it, and I don't understand why a lot of people genuinely just do not care for Spider-Man 3. And to that point, as I was reading, and by the way, now this is a little tricky. Now, luckily, I don't have a very big audience yet to where this could be an issue. But because this is a live show, I'm getting ready to be talking about some of the things that went on in Spider-Man No Way Home. And that includes probably a good load of spoilers. So if you are watching this after it's already been recorded live and you are at this point, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I do not want to spoil anything for anybody because I low-key did that on my TikTok last year when the big Luke Skywalker scene happened. Kind of. I mean, I know better than to sit there and talk about it the night or two after it came on, the big Luke Skywalker hallway finale scene in The Mandalorian. But I made a comparison, Luke Skywalker's hallway scene in Mandalorian to Darth Vader's hallway scene at the end of Rogue One, and the parallels between the two. I made a TikTok about that because I'm big into Star Wars content on my TikTok. And I mean, it was still a solid 2 weeks probably after the finale even happened, and even then, I mean, it blew up, and people even then in the comments were like, you're spoiling it. And I'm like, even 2 weeks later, and I got so many of those comments that I had to take it down, because at the end of the day, I'm looking to bring value. And while that was a very good TikTok, I'm like I loved it. It got a crap ton of views, did very well. But at the end of the day, I listened to my audience. And I was being told, you're spoiling it. I haven't seen this yet. Oh, great. And so I had to take it down. So it's very important to me to, Jesus fucking Christ, somebody just whizzed past. It's very important to me not to spoil anything for you, because I know how important it is. And I didn't want it spoiled for me. That's why I kind of stayed away from all Spider-Man content on social media, because I just didn't even want the chance. Even though I had an idea, these spoilers that I'm about to get to were coming, just because of the nature of what most of us knew. I still didn't want to know. So you have been warned. We are live. If anybody pops in here while we're talking about it, I will stop and ask, have you seen it? And we'll go from there. So without further ado, actually, I made a smoothie before I left the house. Without further ado, the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland fucking spectacular happened in No Way Home. As we all thought that it would, because, think about it. You literally have the main villains coming back from every trilogy, or not trilogy so far. We'll actually get to that in a minute as far as the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's. But, you literally have every main villain coming back from each movie. Green Goblin from Spider-Man 1, Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, Sandman, Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Lizard from Amazing Spider-Man 1. And am I forgetting anybody? I don't think so. No. So you literally have all these villains from each one coming back. And the just the thought, and I remember telling the person I went with to see it, just the thought, like, it would be completely negligent and absolutely unacceptable for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield not to be in it. Like, it was almost like impossible. It's like this movie bombed in a good way. Not, I shouldn't say bombed, because usually when we say movie bombs, it's bad. This movie popped because they made Andrew Garfield and all the other villains coming together. But having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in there with Tom Holland, that is ultimately what made this movie explode. It would have gone the other way it's hard to say. Just knowing how fans of these big movies, I know as a Star Wars fan, I've had my fair share of back and forth with fans. And again, like, I'm the type of person where I respect all opinions, even if I strongly disagree. Like, you're free to have any opinion you want here. This is a community here. You know, my TikTok, where I get a lot of viewers for Star Wars content, it's a community there. It's for everybody to share. And I want that. I don't want to divide people and shit on your opinion of something that I might love. I don't want to do that. Where was I going with that? By the way, I'm on the highway now, and so it might be loud. I don't know how the sound is right. I assume you can hear me just fine. I just got to make sure I speak up and project, because we are on the highway, so it is a little noisy. Let's see what time it was. I'm going to be there at 2:45. I don't do my first segment till about 3:15. So, but I wonder how this movie would have done had they not put Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in it. I don't know if it would have bombed, like, completely just been, but at the same time, I just feel like the fan uproar would have been so loud that however good, because we're still getting the original villains, but we had to get the original heroes too, like the original Spider-Man. You had to get it. And I wonder, I'm sure it would have still been fine. Not as good as it was, but fine if, for whatever the reason, they really didn't put Tobey Maguire in it. But I feel like the uproar from the fans would have been so loud about them not being in it that it would have just overshadowed how good it actually was. It wouldn't have been as good, but it still would have probably been fine. Much like a lot of people's issues with the Star Wars sequel trilogy, it's so loud that it overshadows, and by no means the sequels are not my favorite, but I don't hate them. I still appreciate them for what we got, for the most part. And I take issue with a few things. The longer it's been since they came out, the more I've seen them. But again, like, I still appreciate. I'm not in a tizzy about it at all. But there were some really good moments in the sequels. Like, I think The Force Awakens, in my opinion, was the best of the three. But I mean, just the Han Solo being back, cinematography from The Last Jedi, Episode 8, and then I was happy to see fucking I don't care how, like, a lot of people just thought The Rise of Skywalker was too much, and obviously people hated Rey Skywalker, saying her name was Rey Skywalker. People hated the fact that they killed off Kylo Ren just like that. I did not like that either, but it wasn't at the point where I hated the whole movie over it. But there was a lot of, Palpatine being back, and there were a lot of good things in the sequels, but because the dislike for them tends to be so loud, it kind of overshadows that a little bit. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we live in a society where people can't strongly dislike something or a majority of something, but still pick out the pieces that are still like really good. Like they can't do both, unfortunately, which is a shame. But so anyway, oh, it was so good. And I don't know, it's definitely up there as one of my favorites. A lot of people are saying it is their favorite Spider-Man movie. It's one of them for me, but it's hard for it to overtake the originals, just because it's like, well, the epic finale of No Way Home, where you brought the three together, couldn't have happened without the originals. Whether you're a Tobey fan, an Andrew fan, or a Tom fan, and you're super young and you really didn't live through Tobey and Andrew. Probably more so Tobey, because Andrew wasn't that long ago. I think the last one was in 2013, I think. And then the last Tobey Maguire one was 2007, I think. But I don't know. I would say that No Way Home is right neck and neck with my favorites of the Tobey Maguire. So it's Spider-Man 2 and 3. I still can't really decide a favorite of those two. I would put I would say it's a 3 and No Way Home. Those are my favorites, and it's those three. So, and then obviously the first Spider-Man movie under those. So, yeah. And man, they made Green Goblin so fucking sinister in this movie. Like, in my opinion, Green Goblin, from obviously the Tobey Maguire trilogy, he was the original. He was the main villain, obviously, in Spider-Man 1. And then we saw, bits and pieces of him, but he was the legit villain in Spider-Man 1. I always felt he was kind of underrated, because obviously Doc Ock, had the tentacles, and, Venom in Spider-Man 3, obviously he had the Venom. Sandman had the big sandstorms, and I always felt Green Goblin was the strongest of all the villains, though, because he was strong. Doc Ock, he was nothing without the arms. Venom, Eddie Brock, he was nothing without the black symbiote. But Green Goblin was just, now obviously he became strong after the green shit that he made, or the mist that he injected into himself made him strong, but he was physically strong, so he could physically actually fight. And I don't know, he was genuinely evil. Now, Norman Osborn wasn't. It was, the goblin or the green stuff that he injected into himself that made him that. But with that said, that made him that evil. So he was like just genuinely evil, and you really saw, in my opinion, a version of that in No Way Home. I thought he was more sinister and evil, just evil in No Way Home, because he was, obviously he killed Aunt May. I've already said spoiler, so nobody's here live right now, so I've already said spoiler. Enter at your own risk. He kills Aunt May. He's laughing about it when Peter, when they come face to face at the final fight, and just pressing his buttons, and then obviously he joins up and teams up with the other villains, except for Doc Ock. Doc Ock was actually good in the final fight because of the new chip that Peter put in the back of his head, or neck. But I don't know. I think Green Goblin has always been the most underrated Spider-Man villain, and I genuinely think he's the most evil of all the Spider-Man villains, just because he's just genuinely a bad guy after it goes wrong. So, I don't know. Just something about it. So, No Way Home was epic. That moment where they're talking about being on a team. You know, they begin the fight, but they're kind of fighting the different villains like individually. They're not working as great. What is that? Like, it was just in that moment where they're devising a plan, and then when they run and jump and start swinging together for the first time, oh my God, like the goosebumps that I got from that. In YouTube, because I mean that was the apex of the movie in my opinion, was that moment. And then they all land, you know, in their different perch positions, you know, the Spider-Man, you know, positions where they, you know, they're kind of perched there, and then just seeing all three of them come down out of the air in front of the full moon, and then just land, and they're in their ready position together. And then when they jump and go to fight the villains together, I mean, that was the apex and the best moment of the movie. In that little scene where they're all perched there in their fighting stance and they're ready, I am going to blow that up and put it on a canvas and put it on my wall. Like, that was a beautiful, badass, just majestic fucking few seconds there. I mean, it was so epic. It appeared to get the best audience reaction through the whole movie, where there was so many. I mean, when Andrew first came through the portal, when Toby first came through the portal, I thought they were going to kill off Toby there for a second, when obviously Green Goblin stabbed him in the back, because and I had I don't know why, I just had this feeling in my gut. I guess it's because, you know, they did it to Harry, where he stepped in, you know, he was going to get stabbed, or Toby in Spider-Man 3 was going to get stabbed, you know, Venom leaping out of the air with Harry Osborn's glider to stab Peter, and then Harry jumps out of the air and takes it, dies to save Peter. And then obviously the Han Solo deaths. I don't know, there's a certain tension you can feel when your favorite hero is about to die. I can't quite put my finger on it, but and I guess just the nostalgia, you know, because that glider, people get stabbed with the glider, has been such a fixture, you know, especially in the Tobey Maguire trilogy. Obviously, it killed Green Goblin the first time in the first movie. It killed Harry in the third movie, when it was originally supposed to kill Peter. And just the silence when, you know, obviously Tom Holland was about to stab Green Goblin with it, just out of pure rage. We saw a lot of darkness come out of him in that scene, which I thought was just so good, so good. Just the tension in that scene was so epic. And then obviously Toby comes out and stops it and holds it and gets in the way. And I thought it had a parallel for when obviously Harry took it for Peter. And I thought, just because of just how these things tend to go, I thought Peter was maybe going to take it, or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was going to take it for Tom Holland's Spider-Man this time, because he's obviously the youngest. Toby's the oldest. He's thinking, all right, I've had my time. I'm going to sacrifice it so he can continue on. So he gets in the way. He stops it, holds it. There's a moment of tension. Then obviously Tom Holland lets it go. He comes back to his senses of like, all right, I'm not just going to kill him, because that's not what we do. And then out of nowhere, Green Goblin stabs Toby in the back. And I thought that was it for Toby, because it's how Harry died, and I thought maybe the parallel. And I couldn't quite tell because it happened so fast. I thought it went all the way through and came out the front. Again, just like Harry's did. Now, Harry's was through the chest, and Toby this time was through the lower part of the back. So I thought it came all the way through. But then as Andrew Garfield runs over to check on him, I thought that was going to be maybe his Tobey Maguire's dying scene. Similar to Harry in Spider-Man 3 when they run over. But then Tobey, after scaring the shit out of all of us, says, I don't feel great, but I've been stabbed before, it's okay. I'm like, okay, it must have just got him like in the lower part of his back or something, or on the side or something, and didn't go. So I was like, okay, he got stabbed, but nothing was damaged or anything. So, but I thought, because I mean, you know, it's like this. there's a lot of talk now, and I mean, they all killed it. I mean, it was great. I don't feel like we're ever going to see a new Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I think that was most likely his finale, if I had to guess. Andrew Garfield, I'm not so sure. I think, and there's been a lot of chatter ever now, that this has happened and the movie has happened and it happened. Andrew Garfield fucking killed it, man. And that was another part of where I was talking about earlier about how I don't understand why people genuinely do not like Spider-Man 3. I genuinely don't, because apparently I was doing a lot of reading up on it just because I was so into it because I had just seen the movie. People really didn't like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Now, I think that could be kind of a similar thing with like the Star Wars prequels and fans that grew up with the originals and the Star Wars sequels, people that grew up with the originals and the prequels. They don't want to let the trilogy. and I felt some of that. I've come to like all the Spider-Man. Tobey's always going to be my favorite, but I had a little bit of that too, where I kind of not resented. I didn't like. I wasn't accepting of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man because I was like, how can you make another Spider-Man? Like, Tobey Maguire's, but like, how can that's the real Spider-Man? So I get that a little bit. So I could see that as a reason that people didn't like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But if you actually go watch the movies and like you're a fan of Spider-Man and you understand the character Peter Parker, like he actually now each Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, they all have a different take on it, but they all crush it in their own ways. So I thought Andrew Garfield actually he killed it in this movie. He was funny as always. Like he did a great job. And as I've done more and more, kind of just reading about all things Spider-Man because of seeing the movie and just the craze around it right now and how hot it is, people are genuinely, people are asking and making some noise for the Amazing Spider-Man 3. They want the full trilogy of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Now, I didn't pick up on it watching the movie the first time, but as I've kind of gone back through and watched some of these big clips again and the audience reactions, when Andrew Garfield, when they're saying, Tom Holland was Spider-Man 1, basically so they could communicate during the fight to know who's who. Like Tom Holland was Spider-Man 1, Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man 2, and then Andrew Garfield goes, I'm Spider-Man 3, like I'm the last one. But I didn't realize at the moment, I think that might have been a subtle little jab at the fact that he only had, obviously Tobey Maguire, he had a full trilogy. And Tom Holland has now had a full trilogy, and we may see more out of that. We'll see. Or maybe Miles Morales will come. But Andrew Garfield, he only got 2 movies. He didn't get a trilogy. And so I thought that might be a subtle nod at there could be more to come from Andrew Garfield. And as I've dived a little deeper, people are making some noise for it. They want it to happen. Like, they want it to happen. Like, legit. And supposedly, and obviously this is all just rumors, but supposedly Sony's in talks of making maybe the Amazing Spider-Man 3 happen, which would be great. I could genuinely see that happen. I don't know if we'll ever see a Spider-Man 4 from Tobey Maguire. I would love it to happen, but just trying to be objective as I'm about to be about the Carolina Panthers here just a minute. And Cam Newton. I don't know if I see it happening. I think that was maybe his, because obviously people have been wanting forever to see him in the Spider suit again. Now, obviously, we know that Spider-Man 4 was supposed to happen, back in the day, whenever those movies were still being made. But for whatever reason, it didn't. And I think people had just been wanting this for so long, and it finally happened. I felt like maybe Sorry about that. My phone died. I don't know if you can hear me right now. I'm not sure. I think you can. Maybe. Uh, um, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and close this off. We will have a part 2 to this when I'm actually on my way back home. It's probably gonna be dark. Maybe we'll. I don't know. Let me just double check and make sure you can hear me. You know what? Actually, so I don't know if you can hear me now or not because I've got my phone plugged into the charger. But basically, the final word on Spider-Man: No Way Home is, and we will obviously have more Spider-Man because I have certain pillars and things that I'm big on. You know, obviously, Star Wars is at the top, sports is at the top, Game of Thrones is up there, but Spider-Man is also up there too as far as like fandom things. I'd say Spider-Man is my favorite, followed by Iron Man. Those are my two favorite superheroes anyway. But the final word on No Way Home, it was epic. It was one of the greatest Spider-Man movies of all time. I don't think it's particularly close. It was great to see Toby and Drew and Tom get together. It was great to see the villains together. It was just great to see all the Spider-Man and their villain reunions. Like, Doc Ock and Peter seeing each other again. Like, it was so great to see that. The epic swing scene where they all swung together and come out of the moonlight and land and they're ready. And, just that whole scene was epic. And the movie itself, like the reunion stuff aside, like it was just a great Spider-Man movie. And that's one thing I saw reviewers talking about is it did affect, because a lot of times people, for whatever the reason, not the case with me, but I know Star Wars specifically, a lot of times people think that they get a little carried away with the Easter eggs and references and cameos and things. They go a little far with that. I'm the opposite. I'm like, give me all you can get. But they have a really good balance of honoring the old movies, but making